All right, good morning. Welcome back here to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. Market off and rolling here. A little bit of news out this morning as President Trump has declared that he's not in favor of rolling back tariffs the way some of the Chinese rumors have been, and just more trade war drama there. It continues to be one of those things though where we see less downside reaction to trade war negatives and more upside reaction to trade war positives, which I think is really interesting. And I think if you're bearish, you don't like seeing that. You want to see the opposite. But right now, that's what the markets have, and that's what the markets are. We continue to we'll continue to see some of the drama come out, some of the news, and all of that, come out around it. Okay, we'll go out and take a look at Disney earnings here and the challenge. But let's start with Visa. Visa traded bullish yesterday, and I got into the trade. And about 20 minutes later, the stock just started to fade. In fact, let me pull up the chart here. But you can see we get in. This is just a minute chart on Visa, and get in here at the 12:30, right here, right. And it was something where, okay, stock didn't do much initially, started to kind of continue its climb, and then we see this just chunkage down. From a significant standpoint, long-term chart, there is none. But in terms of some short-term significance and aggravation holding an option, there's a lot. And it sells off aggressively into the close. So from basically 180.5 down to 179. What happened? Well, they announced that they were moving their headquarters, and that almost always brings an initial sell. With it. So, we saw that. It's holding up okay here this morning. With the market down, it's up 20 cents. Nothing to write home about there with it, but we saw that come into play here, and the reality with it is this is now the fourth trade here this challenge. So that makes 50% of the challenge trades so far that within 24 hours of entry have had some sort of negative news. We saw it with Home Depot. We saw it with Intel, where the market news on those dropped them, even though they were in some pretty good spots. We saw it here with Walmart. Now seeing it here with Visa, and then Netflix, wasn't right away, but stock's ready to go, and then boom, downgrade. So basically, 5 out of the 8 trades have been negatively affected by some sort of news action, which is a very high rate. It's an extremely high rate. I always think that those types of things balance themselves out in the long run, but that's going to be a hard one to balance out here. So hopefully we get just a little bit of balance out and able to go forward. The reality is, we've been able to survive it. We're not exactly thriving in it, but we've been able to survive it, and we'll look to trade the next signals and go. Now, as far as Visa here, 177.08 is the stop level. We're not there, so continuing to hold on to the position, and it's still a good chart. It is one of those where it's still a pretty darn nice chart. A break above yesterday's highs would be, just kind of screaming bullish. But still in a nice position here. We'll look for some further gains or some further gains in the stock price, to help out our option and push us up into the green. And if we get stopped out, we'll move on and move on to the next one there. Now, there are no new signals on the board here this morning. If we pull up the bearish crossovers, you can see there are a few out there: Verizon, Vale, Micron, Facebook, Amazon. Right? We have several stocks out there with the downside crossover action. So here's Amazon, right? Facebook, all with it. None of them are triggering bearish here, but they all have that kind of downside crossover action. We saw the upside crossover action on Verizon yesterday, and now today downside crossover action. And the consolidation risk on that is very high. As far as any upside crossovers go, there weren't any last I looked. Let me check again here. Let's see. Something's up with that scan. I'll just close that out. Let's just come on back here. And just the bullish crossovers here. Yeah, so Visa is the only one there on the board. And Visa, because of that sell-off yesterday into the close, the 3 and the 7 didn't actually cross up. But it is happening here this morning as Visa's up about 50 cents here and starting to move back up as I speak. Now, we did see the market itself sell off. And here we go. This is a minute chart on the S&P, and here we go. Market's open. Just kind of a slow motion open for it, and then chunk. And that is as U.S. President Trump, made his comments. So, the market's recovered it all back. It's recovered it all back. The difference in the stocks that are moving or performing is quite different than what it was here on the sell. So there's a little bit of distribution change here to things, but we see energy weak out there in the market, banks lagging a little bit. We're seeing a little bit of snapback in some of the home builders and a little bit of snapback in a few of the tech names out there. Now, after the bell, a certain company reported earnings yesterday, Disney. And you can see the reaction here for Disney stock. It's a pretty favorable upside reaction here to it. This is a stock that for the challenge, triggered bullish here on the 1st of November. And, this is one where I would really like to trade earnings, with the challenge, but won't do that until we're up over 10K. But it's one where there's a significant correlation between the earnings moves and the signal that is on the board, and we've seen that now for well over 3 years. Now they're not all profitable from an options standpoint, so that's a whole different discussion. But in terms of the stock move, they've been very good at grabbing a high percentage of them. Now with Disney, we see this gap up, and it's on an earnings report where the earnings fell 28% year over year, right? 28% earnings decline year over year. Stock's got a tank, right? No. It's not. It's pushing on up, and it's a revenue story, right? And that's what Disney is. 34% revenue growth, and that's what Disney's going to be. In fact, in their call, they talk about the Disney streaming service, and basically it's not going to be profitable for a long period of time. It's not going to put bottom line profit into Disney's earnings, but it is going to grow their revenues. And the expectation is that when it does turn profitable, it will be one of the biggest profit drivers for Disney in the years to come. And so a lot of reasons to be optimistic, to be excited, about Disney, and with that whole streaming service. Is it something where I expect it to just go up, and away from here? No, I don't. I really don't. They still have a few issues and whatnot, and I would not be surprised to see them consolidate a little bit longer. But this does kind of continue to improve the longer-term story. And to me, from a long-term investor standpoint, what the earnings do and what's going on with Disney here, it brings the $300 mark into play. And I know that sounds absurd. It's a $140 stock. You say $300, that's crazy. Well, it brings the $300 mark into play. Let's just go back to a monthly chart here on Disney. right? In 2012, this was a $30 stock. It's now a $130 stock, right? It is one where it is one where the revenue drivers for it, they're in one of the bigger growth industries going forward, and they just operate so well. And the bottom line is Bob Iger is still at the helm. And as long as he's still at the helm, the stock is going to be in a bullish position. The day he announces that he's gone, or the day he leaves, I guess, that's kind of one of those where you say, okay, you know what? Are there some clouds on the horizon? But for now, they continue to operate on all cylinders. Even ESPN has just kind of become okay, we don't care as much about ESPN. And, there's a little bit of saving grace with the Disney streaming service, being hooked up with ESPN Plus and Hulu and all of that. And so, just some positive vibes here around Disney, even though, I don't think it's one of their better earnings reports. But rightfully so, some very positive vibes. And, one that, longer term, still bullish on. It is one that I am not in in much of a position here right now. I'll be looking to get one, but not on this, not on this chase right here. But I do think it is something where, you can start to look at it and say, okay, 300 could easily come into play. And you can make some good arguments for higher. In fact, you can make some very interesting arguments for Disney being one of those companies that chases into a $1 trillion market cap. And that's a 4-time increase from here. That's a $620 stock. And that would, it's not going to happen this year. It's not going to happen next year. But, we get some economic growth out there. I think you could be talking about Disney being one of those stocks that does chase up into that 1 trillion area, and go up into the lofty heights that something like an Apple, sits at right now. All right. Thanks for hopping on. Have yourselves a fantastic day. Here this afternoon, I'll jump on video if there is a trade signal to trade, or if I need to, do something with Visa. If there's not, I'm going to. I'll just put my comments into the message feed there, and run from there, and then be back on video here with you Monday morning. Again, thanks for hopping on. Have yourselves a great day, and we'll talk to you later. Take care.